welcome Trey Tomlin.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. That was great. Hopefully I can say something just as special after that. Thank you for his reign. I've never done this before. This is my first time, so we'll see how it goes. Figure out if it's my last time. I thought Denny was in World War I. I guess it was Vietnam. Just kidding. First, I want to acknowledge the fallen. You know, those who gave there today, so we could have tomorrow. You know. First, I was, coming up here to tell a personal story, so I didn't really prepare or write a speech or anything. And last night, I was up late at night to the chagrin of my wife, and I just was really nervous, and I started doing a little bit of research, and I was wondering how many have actually given their lives, how many have fallen, and we have something called Wikipedia, so I don't know if it's too accurate, but from 1775 to present day, 1.3 million people have died in combat or other type of service for the military. 1.3 million. I don't know how many people have lived in America since it started to now, but I know that there's 313 million population today. And if we speak in terms of population today, that's roughly 4% of America that has died so we can live like this. And it makes you wonder, how far we are from that. This is what soldiers do. So we can have the luxury to not have to experience that type of death and not have to, I'm not going to cry, so I'm not going to get me emotional. But I think that it's great. This is the greatest country. To see all these people here is so refreshing. I don't know how many people out here actually know somebody personally, a family member or something, that have actually died or have sacrificed, but I'm sure it's a small percentage yet. Look at this turnout. People are still grateful. This is just so refreshing for me. It makes it the greatest country ever. But then again, it makes you wonder, how do we remember these people? Do we mourn for them? Do we, are we supposed to be sad throughout the day, have a bunch of moments of silence? And, what do we do? A lot of us don't have family members to do this. And, a great man named General Patton, I have to quote him. He said something that really, really struck me in my heart. I hope it does the same for y'all. He said, "It's foolish to mourn the men who died. Rather, we should thank God that such men have lived." So I think that's what we should do. We should take the time to thank God that we have men, women, soldiers, servicemen that will make that sacrifice so we do not have to. Okay, so the reason that Fellowship of Woodlands asked me to be here is to tell a personal story. I agreed to do that. To tell this story, I have to tell a little bit about myself first. I'm going to go into, mainly just my accomplishments, what I've done in the military. I joined in what's called the 18 X-ray program, which was civilians can sign up for the military and go straight into special forces. So I was a young kid, thought that I could just go straight into special forces, but little did I know that this was the government's way of just getting you to join. So I would have joined anyway, but obviously I went through there was a lot of rigorous training, really tough, hard work. But that's a whole other story. I ended up failing the training for special forces. They call it a selection process, and at the end I just wasn't selected. But, first I was upset about that, but now I look back at, who would select somebody straight out civilian who's never done a deployment, never done anything, to go straight into the elite of the elite, And I look back and I'm glad that I was not selected. But from then on, I told myself I was not going to fail anything else. So in 5 years, I went to every training school that I could. I did what's called airborne school, where you learn how to jump out of planes, parachute down. I'm sure most people know that. I also did air assault school, which is the same thing as airborne, but with helicopters. You can rappel and things like that. I did sniper school. It's one of my favorites ones. Sniper was a lot of fun. I had my expert infantry badge. It's just where you become an expert at everything an infantryman does, including weapons and stuff like that. You go through lanes, you have to prove yourself. I got my combat infantry badge also. I went to Afghanistan and Iraq. I did both wars, made sure I did that. But I only did 5 years, and like Denny was saying, my Iraq deployment was 15 months. That was my first one, so I was a private to a specialist during that deployment. And my second deployment to Afghanistan was actually 8 months. That was when I was an NCO. Just before we deployed, I was promoted to NCO. And a month before we deployed, I was promoted to what's called squad leader, which Denny was telling you. An NCO sergeant, which is E5, which I'm wearing now, is a team leader, and then an E6, a staff sergeant, would be a squad leader. I didn't have enough time in the military to go to what's called the board and be promoted to staff sergeant, but they sent me to a squad leader position anyway. So I deployed with a squad, and that's where I am right now in my life in this story. Just so most of you guys know, I'm not in the military anymore. I've been out for a little over a year. Now for my story. Let's see. We were on a mission in Afghanistan. This one really hits home. It's personal. What infantrymen do when they deploy is they really just mingle with the locals, and they try to win hearts and minds. And they're the guys that go out on the missions and do personal things with the locals there and actually get a lot of contact every day. I had 10 guys under me in my squad. I was in what was called the weapons squad, so we had the big machine guns, 240 Bravos, grenade launchers, and things like that. So we were always a squad the other squads called when they were in trouble. A lot of fun. But one day we were just doing a routine mission into our village. We were going to do an area engagement with local elders, and we're going to talk to them, ask them, what they needed and stuff. It's everyday stuff. We go in there, they say the same things. They say they want, food, they want water and stuff, and we tell them how to get their food and how to get their water, and then they ask us to show them and do it for them. So we end up doing it for them every day. From repairing wells to digging wells to planting crops and stuff. It could get pretty boring day after day. So that's what we did. We went in there, we talked to the elders. Same thing happened, and we ended up having to come back, and I had to make a decision on the way back. It wasn't very far to get back to our outpost, which was about 20 guys at the time, and I was out with 10. There was one way to go in and out, and it was through a little valley. Left side you have some mountains, right side you have a little river. And we had to go through this walkway, or we had to climb a mountain, which wasn't going to be possible to do. And so I had to decide, we're going to cross the river, go through it, go up a mountain and stuff. And you guys sit here and you can think that, why didn't you just do that? But you do this stuff every day, same type of thing. You're out for 9 hours a day in the heat. You got to remember you're carrying a lot of weight. You have armor, weapons, whatever you're carrying. It's probably about 100 pounds. And so just going through the mountains or walking through a river is not that easy. So I decided to go through the little valley there, valleyway. But we got together. I told them, I was like, hey, look, contact's imminent. You guys know what to do. We've been trained for this. We've been in many firefights. So we're just going to have to deal with it and go. So what we did, that's what we did. We went through. Now, prior to this, I've been in a few explosions before this, been blown up a few times. It's called dismounted without a truck, just walking around. And I've never been injured before, but I guess if you don't consider like concussions, getting sick, throwing up, it's not really injured. But there was one time where I was blown up, and my friends were in a truck, and they were looking out the back door of the truck, and I got blown into the truck, landed in it, and my friend was looking back, and he said it just looked like a ball of fire engulfed me, and he just saw little wings like carrying me. He's like, "Dude, you got angels," and then everybody went to go on missions with me after that. But so this particular time, we're walking through this valley, and of course we come upon an IED. But what happens is the squad leader, team leader, what have you, is going to be in the middle of the squad. That way he can direct the rear and the front. So that's where I was in the middle, and the front team was about 25 meters, 50 meters ahead of me, and you had a rear team that was about the same distance behind me. And I saw a bomb on the side, on the river side. The way they put it in there is in the embankment of the river. They had it put into the side of it. So when it blew up, it was going to go right up into my face. Unfortunately, the front team did not see it. So when I walk up on it, I see it right here, and I tried not to panic because as I saw a wire running off it, which means it's a command detonating. It means somebody's waiting with a button somewhere he's watching. So if I were to panic, he would prematurely blow it up so he could run out, get out of there. So I tried not to let him know I saw it. And I turn around and I halt my rear team, make sure they didn't come any closer to me. And then I look forward. Of course, my front team is continuing on. They don't know what's going on. And that was a time that just, it's hard to explain, but time just kind of stopped. And it's just this huge rift, kind of really big sound wave just hits me. And the way I remember it is I took it like a man, I took that blast and I just fell to my knees and I was like, ow. But the way my friends explained to me, they said I flew like 30 feet, did some backflips and cartwheels and stuff, but I don't remember any of that. And I just remember being on my knees and looking down after getting blown up and thinking like, man, is this like every other time, or am I really messed up that time? Because that was just right in my face. What had happened is the way it was buried, the explosion, the shrapnel or the metal, when it blew up, came straight up and hit me in the chest, and some of it hit me in the neck and in the face. So I'm laying there and I'm looking down, and as I look down, I can't see out of my right eye. And my left eye is, well, I just got punched in the head really hard, so it's a little hard to see out of my left eye. But I can see, my nose just hanging off on a string, and I see like just blood pulling up in my hand, and I know that it's not good. I was like, wow, okay, because I know that the head bleeds really bad. It's easy to die from a head wound. And to kind of put it in perspective, whenever a bomb's in some sand and it blows up, then the sand's going to be everywhere. So I was engulfed in a cloud of sand. Nobody knew exactly what happened or what was going on and stuff. And there was a guy on my front team, I found out later, he was passed out in the ditch from the concussion that knocked him out. I made fun of him for that later. He got knocked out. But everybody was calling out, my team leaders were saying, is everyone okay? Everyone okay? And all the guys in the squad were saying, yeah, Roger, Sergeant, we're okay, we're good, we're up, And I was sitting there, just bleeding. Nobody was seeing me, and I'm thinking like, no, I'm not okay, man. I need to stop this bleeding, And so I start to call out, and I can't call out. I can't call out to anybody, and I start to wonder why I can't call out, and I'm thinking I'm not breathing out, so I didn't get the air knocked out of me. And then I realized I'm not breathing at all. I was not breathing. And I reach up to my neck, and I had a huge sharp piece of metal in my neck right here. And it was preventing me from breathing, from talking, from anything. So of course, I start to panic at this time because nobody could see me. I'm in this cloud of smoke. Everyone's saying they're okay, and I think I'm dying. So you hear a lot of things, what goes through your mind when something like this happens, when death is upon you. People say that, your life flashes through your mind, stuff like that. For me, it was a little different. I started to wonder how everybody was going to be without me. I mean, it's embarrassing to say, but that's what it was. I was thinking my soldiers are not going to be okay. I need to be there for them. God, come on. My wife, what's she going to do without me? My family, my loved ones, my friends. I started thinking about that, and then I started thinking about regrets and stuff, what I did wrong, and like, man, I should have done this or should have done that so they would be okay without me, or I should have maybe made that time a little more important. And so that was going through my mind, because that was the kind of person I was. I thought that I had to do everything, and I had to go get all these medals and accomplishments and go to these schools, and I couldn't fail, and I needed to do that, and I had to impress people, and I had a lot of pride, and I thought that I was doing that because I'm a man of God, and men of God do this kind of stuff. They have integrity, they have they're true to their values, and this was a way that I was going to impress God. Maybe this is what He wanted me to do, and if I impress Him enough, then maybe I'll have a good seat in heaven somewhere. And so that's what I did when I was dying. I was wondering how everything was going to be when I was gone. And I was thinking, God, you can't take me now. These people depend on me. And then I just started thinking about that and how I am, how I was. And I thought about, what if that's wrong? How wrong is that? And so I said a silent prayer, and I told God, I said, hey, if this is your will, Lord, this is what you have for me, then I accept it. I surrender to your will. Because this is not our legacy, this is His legacy. Too many times we try to make it our legacy for Him when it's not ours at all, it's His. And I surrendered to Him right there, and I told Him that I understood, and I said, you know what? They're in your hands. They always have been, and they will be. And if this is your will and you think it'll be okay, then I accept it. And it's funny. This is all in a span of like 30 seconds. To me, it felt like hours. But as soon as I did that, a breath of air just came into my mouth. It was the sweetest breath I've ever taken. And I was wondering, I guess that's the answer. That's it. It has to be. So that was my moment right there. That was it for me. After that, now God was always going to be the first one. I wasn't going to prove anything to Him. He has already done that. So after that, the smoke clears, the sand, everybody's still panicking and stuff. They're dealing with an ambush, things like that. And then one of my guys comes up to me and he looks at my face and he's like, "Oh God, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, why do you ask?" Great. So helicopter comes and takes me out of there. But what ended up happening is I just lost my nose. They put it back on. I had a little piece of shard went through here, and that's why I couldn't see out of my right eye. I went blind in this eye. I also had a shard in here. A few other places in my body, some metal hit, but those are the biggest ones. Other than that, just how it goes with concussions. You can't go to sleep and roll over because you'll wake up throwing up. This is how it is. But I had a full recovery, complete recovery. Now you can barely see scars. This one you can see pretty well just because there's still a piece of metal under there, so it protrudes pretty well. It's pretty big. But everything else, you couldn't tell. It just looks like little red marks on my face and stuff. So really grateful for that. That obviously God has had a hand in this. Now, this happened November 3rd. remember, it's 2 days before my 25th birthday. So, spent my 25th birthday in the hospital, and don't be sad because it's the greatest birthday I ever had. I had some nurses from Netherlands and Sweden swooning over me, bringing me ice cream. I was in the bed for the first time that year. I was in a bed. I was happy, and I had ice cream. It's great. There's some great bases in the Middle East, I'll tell you what, guys. But, so, you know, all this stuff was happening to me. I had all this healing process, you know, and then I was sent home. And of course, you know, this is a month later, so a few weeks of recovery, several weeks, and it was Christmas time. I was sent home, and I got to see all my family. And, you know, all of a sudden, it was real for, you know, the people that I knew also, you know. People were talking to me now, spending time, and of course it was Christmas time, so everybody had the time to come and visit, and we could get together and stuff. So it was a huge change for me. It was from, you know, not even being able to take a shower, you know, once a month to coming home and being in America at Christmas time with all his family. So there was a while there I thought I had died, and I was in heaven. I thought this is my heaven, and that's what it was for me. And then went to work at school and realized it wasn't heaven. But I wanted to end with a little bit of advice to any other families or soldiers, maybe some soldiers that are just now getting in, just now getting out, or maybe some family members that you have somebody else that maybe you know what to do, because we have lots of deaths. For example, Vietnam, 58,000 deaths in Vietnam, killed in action. But a lot of people don't know that twice that number, so almost 120,000 deaths from suicides from that time, from PTSD, people coming home and killing themselves. I mean, it's a big issue. What's helped me, I don't know if this is the correct advice, I'm not a doctor, but the thing that's helped me the most is you need to surround yourself with great people. Surround yourself with motivators, people that make you better. You know, find some mentors, for people like Denny for me for a long time. Mr. Boyce has helped me out a lot. I mean, that's what I did. I came home, I surrounded myself with great people. Another big thing is I got a dog, you know. Got a dog, and you know, it doesn't sound like much, but you get an active dog, you know, he makes you want to run, he makes you want to go outside, exercise, so he kept me exercising, and that's what kept me going too. You need to find a passion and immerse yourself in that passion, whether it's school or it's work, or maybe it's, you know, joining a group or something, or church. That's what you need to do, but you need to avoid the labels. You have to avoid the labels. Because if you tell somebody they have PTSD, then that's their excuse for everything now. They have PTSD. They're just going to be like, well, that's my identity now. So everything that they do, or everything that's going to happen in their lives, will be like, well, it's just because I have PTSD, so I'm going to accept it. You got to stay away from that, because that's a bad road to go down. But I hope that my story has helped, you know, maybe touched a few people here, or helped a little bit. And I know I'm not as good a speaker as Danny, but that's it. That's all I have. Thank you very much for having me.